You ever think you're finally out of the woods, only to find out the woods just got a whole lot wilder? That was me, Ethan Miller, just a guy who inherited his granddad's ranch, hoping for some peace and maybe a little quiet. Turns out, when the universe gives you a break, it sometimes throws in an HOA president named Judith just to keep things interesting. I still remember the day I got the call. My grandpa was gone, but he'd left me his ranch, a wide, wild stretch of land that had been in the family longer than anyone could remember. For me, it was more than an inheritance. It was like a lifeline out of the city, out of the noise, out of endless emails and gridlocked traffic. It was a new start, a place where the only deadlines were sunrise and sunset. That first morning, stepping out on the porch, the air felt different, cleaner, maybe, or just old. The house itself had seen better days, but she stood strong, creaking and solid, right at the heart of everything. Out in the pastures, wildflowers painted the grass, horses glistened in the early light, and a pair of goats argued with a rooster over who ran the place. There were chickens pecking around, pigs snorting in their pen, and I'll be honest, for the first time in years, I felt at home. Days settled into a rhythm, feeding, fixing, mending fences, learning every little quirk of the land. Evenings I'd sit out on the porch, coffee in hand, just letting the quiet soak in. Out past the edge of my fields, though you could see it, rows of houses lined up like dominoes, every mailbox and shutter matching, the grass clipped short enough to make a golf course jealous. That was Maplewood Heights, an HOA-run development so polished it made you itch. I'd barely paid them any mind. Why would I? My world and theirs didn't mix. Or so I thought. That changed the day Judith rolled up in her black SUV, beige blazer crisp as a new dollar bill, pearls so bright they almost blinded you. She stepped out, smile tight, voice honeyed but sharp. Hello there. I'm Judith, president of the Maplewood Heights HOA. Yeah, that happened. She went on about community and shared values, all neighborly, but you could tell there was something behind those words, like she was just waiting to tell me how to run my own land. I smiled, nodded, told her my ranch wasn't part of her HOA, but thanks for stopping by. She just smiled tighter, like a cat watching a mouse. For a minute, I figured maybe that was that. I'd keep to myself, she'd keep to her perfectly trimmed lawns. But the thing about people like Judith is, they don't let things go. 2 weeks later, she was back, heels sinking into the dirt, clipboard in hand, less sugar this time. We've been reviewing the boundaries. There's uncertainty about where your property ends and ours begins. I thought it might help to take a look around. Let me back up a sec. She wanted to inspect my land. I almost laughed, but she was dead serious. Against my better judgment, I let her in, figured what's the harm? I'd soon find out. I went to make coffee, and from the kitchen window, I watched Judith, taking pictures of everything, muttering into her phone, practically measuring my barn with her eyes. But then she vanished. I headed out back, and there she was, half buried in the compost pit, her blazer and pearls now a muddy brown. Get me out, she shrieked, phone lost in the muck, hair stuck to her face. I did the only thing you can do in that situation, grabbed a rebar, hauled her out, tried not to laugh. For a second we stood there, me holding a muddy piece of metal, her dripping filth, still clutching that damn clipboard. When I offered her coffee, she shot me a look that could curdle milk, stomped to her SUV, and drove off, spraying mud all down the road. I figured after that, she'd leave me be. Turns out, that was just her opening act. Next thing I know, there's a letter from a law firm, Judith suing me. Claims she suffered emotional distress, physical injury, the whole 9 yards, because my compost pit was a hazard. I laughed, but it burned. I called Clara, my lawyer, a woman who can cut through nonsense like a combine through wheat. She just asked, "You got proof?" I did, security footage. Crystal clear, Judith wandering all over my land, taking photos, falling in all by herself, me pulling her out. Clara grinned, she's done. Court day came. Judith put on a show. Her lawyer painted me as a careless, neglectful landowner. But Clara rolled the footage, and that was it. People in the courtroom stifled laughter as they watched Judith step right into the pit, me rushing to help. Case dismissed. The judge even shook his head. Word spread fast. Folks started calling her the compost queen. And for a moment, I thought, well, that's over. I should have known better. Barely a week later, I'm fixing a fence when a pickup rumbles up. 2 guys in reflective vests, tool belts jangling. We're contractors for Maplewood Heights, the burly one says. Here to take down this fence. HOA says it's encroaching. I stared at them, then at the fence that had been there longer than any of their homes. I kept my cool, but my voice came out flat. You touch that fence, you're trespassing. And I don't call the sheriff for trespassers. I've got a shotgun. That did it. They backed off, muttering about checking with the HOA, and sped away. I called Clara again, fuming. They're trying to muscle me now. She sighed, told me to get a surveyor. So next morning, I met Frank, old-timer with a tape measure and an attitude. He walked every inch of that boundary, double-checked every post. By dusk, he handed me a map, shaking his head. Well, Mr. Miller, not only is your fence where it ought to be, but seems the HOA's parking lot and shed are way over the line. On your land, by a good stretch. Poetic justice. If Judith hadn't pushed, I might never have noticed. Now it wasn't just defense, it was offense. I wanted my land back, and Clara was all for it. We filed a formal complaint. HOA had to move their parking lot, their shed, compensate me for years of trespass. The legal tables had turned, and I finally felt like I wasn't the one on my heels. The big day, courtroom packed, everyone watching. Judith was there, looking wilted but still clinging to that air of command. Clara laid it all out. The survey, the footage, the evidence of their contractors at my fence. The judge barely hid her irritation, especially when Clara played the clip of Judith's infamous mud bath, the fence right where it should be. Judith's lawyer tried to spin it, blame miscommunication. But the judge wasn't having it. She ordered the HOA to move their stuff, pay damages, and fine them for harassment. Such behavior has no place in a community, she said, cutting. That was that. Afterward, some of the board came over, quiet apologies, said they never realized how far Judith would go. I nodded, but I wasn't ready to trust them. It felt good to win, but man, I was tired. It had cost me time, money, peace of mind. But for the first time, I felt like the ranch was really mine again. Back home, it all felt different. HOA contractors showed up, hauling out sheds, tearing up the edge of their precious parking lot. Some neighbors even stopped by, said thanks for standing up. Turns out, they didn't like Judith's style much either. I cut a deal, let them use the land for a few more weeks, on my terms, just to keep things neighborly. After all, even when you win, you gotta live next door. Judith? She resigned, left Maplewood Heights under the cover of night, reputation in tatters. The board reformed, new folks in charge, more interested in barbecues than bylaw crusades. One morning Tom, the new president, shook my hand at the gate. Thanks for making us rethink what it means to be neighbors, he said. Let's keep things friendly from here on out. I just grinned. You keep off my land, I'll keep off yours. Simple as that. Funny thing is, over the months, I found myself actually getting to know some of the folks from Maplewood Heights. Even let a couple of their kids ride my horses. Guess it takes a battle to find common ground. The ranch was quieter now, more peaceful than ever. Every evening, as the sun dropped behind the hills and the cicadas started up, I'd lean on the fence, watching the shadows stretch long over land that was finally truly mine. It's wild, how a fight for your land turns into a lesson for a whole community. What started with threats and lawsuits ended up teaching all of us something about respect, boundaries, and what it really means to be a neighbor. Sometimes, you've got to stand your ground to earn a little peace. So now I'm throwing the question to you. What would you have done in my boots? When do you stand and fight, and when do you compromise? Is justice always so clear? I want to hear your stories, your run-ins with HOAs, your battles for what's right. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation rolling. After all, good fences might make good neighbors, but a little understanding goes a whole lot further.